All right. Hey, traders. TG Watkins here. Let's make sure we got everything up and running, and then we can get into it. So today is a really, really big down day. The news is that Fitch, which is a credit rating company, has downgraded the U.S. from AAA to AA plus, AA plus. Oh, hang on a second. And meanwhile, I'm getting my house remodeled, and there might be some noise in the background as they are getting a lot of work done up in the attic today. So big stuff. We're putting a beam up there because we're taking out a load-bearing wall, and that load-bearing wall now has to be put up in the attic. So yeah, fun stuff. All right, Mirza, thanks. Appreciate it. Looks like we're good in the Moxie room. And Nick, looks like we're good on Facebook and YouTube. So thanks, everybody. And for anybody else out there who is new to me, you can come over to profitpilot.com. This is the newsletter that I do every twice a week. And you can check everything else out at simplertrading.com/Moxie. All right, let's take a look at this damage and see what's happening today. We have basically been looking for and expecting this. And in fact, for the last feels like a week or so, something right around here. And in fact, last Thursday, when we had the market jumped up after the CPI report, but then we got the next day, or actually the day, so Thursday jumped up after the FOMC, and then we had the Bank of Japan news, and that was a pretty big rip to the downside, which then got recovered. But then since then, I've been looking for price on the S&P to get down to at least the daily 21. The Moxie traders in the group know that we've been kind of talking about this and looking for that. And it took a few more days after that, but boom, there we go. We are down to the daily 21 right now. It could go further, but I think it's going to take time if it is going to go further. Usually price doesn't just, go straight down like this. A lot of times what it'll do is it comes down and then they'll kind of do something and then maybe it'll come back down like that if it's going to go further like that. So we'll have to kind of see what kind of path and bounces and bumps that this takes. The other thing I will point out, and the Moxie traders know that we've been discussing this, there was the Moxie price trigger right there, which means it signals that the Moxie indicator went below 0 on that time frame. So basically it went from positive to negative, and that's what that is right there on the hourly chart. And then that was Thursday with the Bank of Japan, and the day after the FOMC. And then we got the rebound, and I was like, this is kind of looking a little sketch. You could see here we had price over the hourly 50. We had the Moxie indicator below 0. That is your inverse trampoline move. And it's kind of funny. I was telling the Moxie traders this morning. I said, this Fitch downgrade is basically, it's funny how the truth is stranger than fiction, right? That we were kind of expecting something, and then lo and behold, we get some news like the Fitch downgrade to basically grease the wheels of the thing that we were looking for to happen. Like the market was in position to do something like this, and then boom, just looking for an opportunity, looking for an excuse basically to do something of a move like this. And that's where it worked out. And I got to say, I didn't exactly catch this yesterday simply because the market had kind of been chopping around for a while. But hindsight is 2020. Take a look at that. Yesterday, the SPY actually got rejected by the underside of a downtrending 15-minute 50 with the Moxie indicator below 0. That is a legit setup right there. That is a written in the rule books. Look for that kind of thing, that combination, and it showed up yesterday. And then, of course, we got the news today about Fitch. So, yeah. So brighter side, it's funny that you mention FTCH. You know how sometimes people are looking at something and they, what was it, like Zoom or ZM or Zoom. Do you remember during the pandemic, everyone was hopping on Zoom because everyone was doing video chatting and whatnot. And people thought, oh, well, this amazing thing, like everyone's using it. Let's go look at its stock and let's go buy Zoom and it's going to go higher. Well, people bought ZOOM. And that one went through the roof until people realized that was not actually Zoom. Zoom was ZM as far as the ticker. And so I could totally see, since you were mentioning that Fetch was looking good, Farfetch, that maybe people were like, oh, Fitch, the rating agency, and then they look up FTCH and see if it was maybe a little bit buoyant today. So I don't see anything like that. I don't see some phenomenon. Though the other thing I was wondering is, since we're on that topic, X, X, which is United States Steel, since Elon Musk changed Twitter to X, I kind of was wondering if X was going to get a bit of a bump, since people might have thought something about that. I looked into it too, and no such luck, which is a little unfortunate. I kind of wanted to see if some funny things like that, some typical market shenanigans, were going to happen. So yeah, a little sad on that front. So let's see. Go back to Fetch or Farfetch. I have been watching this, and if you guys all remember, the basic theme. And I know today's a big down day, but this is something we've been looking for and expecting it, and just kind of wondering, okay, when's it going to happen? We got that shot across the bow on Thursday, and then the market carried up until today. So almost a week that the market actually continued to move up after that drop. So if we look at the big picture, I do think things like this are bottoming, are basing. Of course, Fetch is not as ripe as some of the other names out there, but I have a feeling that if this market does continue, again, I know today's a big down day, but it was needed. It was basically expected. I'll show you the breadth internals, and we need to basically get the market to recycle. And I think that once we get the recycling done, then we can continue to move up, because I really see quite a bit of strength out there. It just kind of needs to take a break for the next leg up. So that being said, I think a lot of names are done going down. Like you can see Fetch has that double bottom right there, and it's basically primed right there on the weekly chart. You can see that we have the weekly Moxie indicator firing. We have price over the weekly 30. The 8 is over the 21. The only obstacle in its way is the weekly 50. And so what it could be doing is basically just kind of basing in here, waiting for the next opportunity to go up. When is that going to be? Well, we're not entirely sure. We can look at the lower time frames to kind of help figure that out. But I have a feeling it's going to, we'll see if Fetch doesn't want to go down right now when the market's going down, then this is a name that I would be looking at to see if it's actually going to go up when the market is, kind of gets itself figured out. And brighter side, I can definitely see why you're looking at this. This is the same reason I've been looking at it, is it's basically pulling back into the daily 50 with the Moxie indicator above 0. And there's a potential kind of level double bottom starting to form on here as well. And then brighter side, I know you've been looking at this. I'm sure you see the 5250 as we also saw the 5250 here. So yeah, I'm seeing a combination of setups for Farfetch. Now, it's not ready yet, but it's one of those things that I would definitely be waiting and watching. All right, let's see some of the other ones that we're looking at. Oh, let's do this. Let me finish up kind of talking about the overall market. Let me get this. I'll show you guys the internals. And this is what was telling us that, a pullback was likely and imminent. So notice this is the right here. This is the number of stocks over the 50-day SMA. And you can see that I drew a line at about, call it 0.78, 0.79, which means 78 or 79%. And basically what I noticed is that was a level where when that breadth indicator gets near there, it doesn't stay up there for very long, which indicates that the market is overbought and likely to pull back at some point. And we got really, really bullish. We've seen this a couple times before where it gets up to, 80, 89%, 90%, like almost everything is in an uptrend. Almost everything is above the 50 SMA. Almost everything is too far on one side of the boat. And so it's likely to reverse after that. And that's what we've been looking for and waiting for. And that's why I said that today's news and down move was really just something to grease the wheels. I even mentioned the other day that this breadth indicator came down from 89% to about 81% over the last couple of days. So we have been seeing this thing happen. Now we just have to figure out, okay, how long is this going to go for, and how far down is this going to go for? And once we can find that out and see the turn, then I think we can continue to move back up. So that's kind of where we're at, is we just need to, wait this out, watch, see what stocks are still strong and which ones want to continue to move up. So let's see, let's take a look. Laser, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I know that a lot of these names are done going down, but I don't know if they're going to be very exciting to the upside. That is the thing that I've been kind of saying for a lot of things. Some people have been asking me about ZM, Zoom, since we've been talking about that. And I said, I'm sure it's done going down. Now, will it really go up? I just don't know. I just don't really know if it's going to go up. And we look at something like this. Yes, there's an inverse head and shoulders. Yes, it's been putting in a base, and yes, it's trying to get over. Sure, it can have all the fixings, but how well is it going to rise? Is it going to be a big winner, big leader, and is there going to be a lot of money that comes towards it to drive it higher? That's what I don't know, and I'm just not sure if laser is going to be one of those. So that's the difficult part of seeing the setup and seeing all the rules be fulfilled, but then wondering, is it actually going to be a successful trade? Is it going to be a successful stock? And I question that as far as laser. And kind of the same thing about Vimeo. I don't know. Is Vimeo going to really pick up? Is there a real reason that this thing's going to get going? Maybe. There is the I guess it's a good percentage mover. That's the other thing, is that it doesn't look like much, but that range is 26%. So little chart movements mean big percentage. So yeah, this one too, also looking good, starting to get past the weekly 50 and all these things. And I do have this on a watch list of mine, but I just wonder how successful is it going to be. Now, fortunately, this is after earnings. Okay, I like that better too. And I'm not sure I'd really want to chase this today, but this is definitely something I would be looking for an opportunity. Basically, I wouldn't want to chase it like that. I would want to wait for a pullback like that. So wouldn't chase it here, but if it could pull back a little bit, I would be willing to take a look into it. And yeah, let's walk through some of the setup. There's a nice double bottom right there. And both of these were trampoline moves. Price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0, trampoline move. So yeah, pretty good situation, and almost a perfect 5250 right there on that hourly chart. Yeah, but what you could see is there's your double bottom, there's your positive divergence, and then it kicked off for earnings. So yeah, this one's on my list, but of course I like to wait for a lot of things till after earnings. But so yeah, now that it's done with earnings, then we can kind of start looking into this a little more. Let's see, Oust. Yeah, same kind of deal. Oh, a lot of volume though. That's interesting. Yeah, this is also on my list. So brighter side, you're doing a good job at least looking through my watch list. So yeah, we'll have to kind of see what's going on here. What's the volume? Why is it coming in? You can see it looks like it's done going down. And so if it goes up, is it going to be a big up? And unfortunately, it does have earnings right around the corner. So I would probably wait. I don't think this thing looks exciting enough for me to really do much about it until after earnings. But yeah, interesting things to be looking at. And then Twilio. Yep. I mean, look, they look like they're done going down, but the question is, are they going to go up? And that's really where we're at. And I think we need to wait until after earnings to get that figured out for Twilio. So yeah, not too much to talk about that one. All right, then top spin. Good to see you. Let's see, MDT. Look at this. Yeah, kind of that same stuff. These things are looking like they're trying. They're certainly making progress. You can definitely see that they're coming up off the low here, and they really are making progress by getting over these moving averages. And same thing here, they're getting over the moving averages on the monthly and weekly timeframes. And so really, they're just kind of a holding pattern until they do something. I assume that they're going to go up, but they also could just chop around for a long time. Yeah, so hard to really kind of figure something out with this one. It's just going sideways. So we've got quite a few names that are done going down. You can see they're done going down. And now the question is, are they going to go higher? Let's see if there's a bit of a level. I'm kind of visualizing one right here. Yeah, you can see right there, it's kind of a level. So yeah, see what it does. If it can kind of hold here and eventually recover and maybe it goes up with the market on the next round that the market's ready, then sure, maybe. But it's just kind of it's not doing anything. So there's not much to say. And then what? WB. Now, overall, China is doing well. If we look, let's go over and look at FXI. This is the Chinese ETF. And you can see here's the big deal. look how long this thing has been in a downtrend. Okay. I think it's done going down. We have an inverse head and shoulders. We have the Moxie price trigger. It's technically a trampoline move now. We've had a huge weekly candle bar, and we now have price over an uptrending monthly 10. We have not seen that in a very, very long time. So this is kind of what makes me think that we do have the wind at our backs uh, for a bullish environment, since all these things are just beginning. And everything got repriced. We've been in a bear market for a couple years, and everything got burned down to the ground, and now we're starting to see green shoots start to come up. So I do think that we are in a new bullish market again, despite today. Today was just, I think it was news greasing the wheels of the thing that we were expecting, which is a market pullback. And you can see here with FXI, we had a solid move. That is a really, really big move. And you can see we have a fresh price trigger, Moxie price trigger on this too. Like everything's looking great. And what started that off was a trampoline move. Here's price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0. That's a trampoline move. It's like you jump on a trampoline and it shoots you up. It's exactly what that is. And it just got a little overdone. I mean, look, it made some kind of new recent highs, had a huge, great move, but notice it got overextended. It kind of ran away from its moving averages. It got outside of that third ATR. I mean, it just really got up there. And we're basically in the leverage ETF of this. And we could have taken a little bit off, but I'm kind of looking at the bigger picture. I think that this thing still has a long way to run, and I didn't want to be too finicky with this. And so, gosh, if anything, if you guys aren't in something like this might be about we can't tell yet because it's still pulling back, but it could end up being a good dip buy to initiate or add more or start to be to participate in this overall longer term up move of what I'm seeing. So that's what's happening here, and that's how I kind of figure out. I think we just got a little overbought coming back down. Everything seems fairly normal and not too worried about it. And that's to say, if we look at WB, I think that if you are looking at Chinese stocks, the wind is at your back generally. I think the market's looking good. I think Chinese stocks are looking good. Yes, we're looking for a pullback and a refresh, which we're getting today, and it can continue for a while. But overall, I think that lows are in for the majority of stuff, and now we're just doing the, trying to ride the wave and be aware of those ebbs and flows. And if you look at WB, same thing. It just got a little overbought. So all it's doing is kind of coming back down to support. And I imagine once it gets its footing, it's going to continue to move back up over the course of time. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. Yeah, John, I was a little surprised when I saw you say that you picked up some DT this morning. The combination of DT getting dropped on earnings and the market dropping, that's a little bit of catching a falling knife. So I can be guilty of that too. I did that on Toast when it had its pullback. I think eventually you can be right with DT, but it had a pretty big gap to fill. You look at that gap between price and that monthly 10, and it was fairly big. Not saying it has to go all the way down, but it's a pretty big gap. And if you look at the weekly chart, where it was over the weekly 8, and where it is now is just below the weekly 21. So I do think eventually you're going to be right, because remember the whole moat situation. It is unlikely that this is going to just keep going straight down at some point. Oftentimes you get it down, and then at least you get a snap back. So you'll have to decide what kind of duration trade that you can get. So for example, you look at DT back here, what did it do? Had a pretty big pullback, hammered out a bottom, and then that started a next due run. So if this market is still actually good, then eventually a down move like this is going to be good and will be rewarded to the upside. We just kind of have to wait and figure that out. And so let's come over here and get a little bit closer view. Yeah, there just wasn't anything. I bet even if we look at the 2-minute, yeah, look at this. There's just nothing. There was nothing indicating that it was ready to turn around. I mean, still basically underneath these moving averages, you can still see that the 5 minutes still had the 8 below the 21. Nothing really turned yet. So that's why I have a hard time trying to buy dips. I'm trying to get better at it, but sometimes you get a little like, oh, there's the dip, and then we buy it and it keeps dipping, and it can be a little tricky. But yeah, it's getting pretty stretched. Now the question is just, when is it going to snap back? And I would really watch probably the 5 minute and 15-minute combo as far as figuring out when this thing's actually going to turn. So yeah, well, we got a lot of talk. Nice guys. Let's see. Snap. Go through some of these quickly. Yeah, so John, look at this. Brighter Side was mentioning Snap, and it's kind of the same thing. Snap definitely dropped on earnings, but look what it did. It moved up. Got oversold just like DT did, and it at least reverted back to the mean. Now, can it keep going up? Sure. Can it keep going down? Sure. But at least it filled the gap, and that was one type of move. Okay, so for people who are shorter term traders, and you can find that opportunity, that snapback to fill the gap and get back to its moving averages is one kind of trade. You just have to look at the lower time frames and be quick on it. From here, Snap might be a decent trade, but it's just not quite ready yet. I would still give it a little bit more time. And in fact, yeah, look at this. The weekly chart, not too shabby. What's it doing? Let's look at this thing. So if we really look at this, yeah, it was a big drop on earnings, but where was it? It was overbought. It was very, very high, very extended, way up there. And what is it doing now? It's basically just coming back down to the weekly 30, the weekly 50, the weekly 21, that whole area. And the Moxie price triggers firing. In fact, that looks exactly like the pullback that DT had before it went on a really good run. So yeah, I think that this market is still good. We just have to find the right opportunities and have our timing right. So burn this in your memory real quick. You see how that moved down and that pullback into those moving averages on the weekly time frame. Now take a look at DT right there and tell me that this right there is not basically the same thing. Now, of course, I have no idea what it's going to do next. I don't know if it's going to be a great winner or not, but all I can say is that pullback into those moving averages on that time frame look very, very similar to each other, and one of them had a great move afterward. Let's see, Google. So I had earnings, happy about that. It's out of the way, did well, and it just got overbought. But it's in an uptrend, isn't it? It seems to be doing just fine. It's just a little overbought. So now it's coming back down. It's coming back down to earth, some reality. And I would just say that find where it wants to pull back to and find where it wants that support. And I think eventually it will continue moving up because it's in an uptrend. It just got overbought, and now it's coming back down to find support. And then you just have to dance with it. Ajay, I have no ideas when it comes to earnings because it's a complete crapshoot. It can go up, it can go down, it goes sideways, whatever. I really can't give any guidance for earnings. You're on your own. We're all on our own when it comes to earnings. So sorry about that. Let's look at not just AAL, but let's look at Jets. And what we can also see with Jets is, again, a lot of things had some really, really amazing moves over the last few weeks, but everything got overbought. This is why I said we should be expecting the market to pull back at some point. But look at this. Jets ran right into the monthly 50, ran right into the third ATR and basically the weekly 200 and, pulled away from the moving averages. So now just don't be surprised. Expect a pullback. And that's what's been happening. Now, eventually, I would imagine this pullback is going to come into support and it'll go higher. We just have to wait for when that is. We have to wait for when we see signals on the hourly or the 15-minute time frame for jets or the airlines. And we have to wait for price to get back over those moving averages and use them as support. So I don't see anything wrong with this. I see a great chart that is basically in an uptrend. It just simply got overbought and it's doing its ebbing and flowing, which is a completely normal type stuff. Now, Kevin, nice. Good morning from Lakeland, Florida. Good to see people from all over the country. All right, how about AI? And then I'll be heading out. So yeah, kind of same thing. AI also looking fantastic. Not really budging. This has been a fairly strong stock because it has been staying above the weekly 8. Now, if it breaks the weekly 8 and wants to head down to the weekly 21, yeah, that would be a problem for our positions, and we would get out for that time, and then we wait for the next opportunity. But if it can generally keep staying up here and keep holding, this area and flag into the daily 50 and eventually move up, then yeah, I think it looks fine. So much for that breakout yesterday, right? So much for that. But overall, I think it's just flagging, chopping, and waiting for its opportunity to go higher. And it looked like it was going to be good until today with the rest of the market. But you know what? It's not too bad. It's still holding up. Yeah, and Bitcoin, if we kind of look at GBTC, um, who's that? Who's asking? Hourglass. Okay. So it's kind of the same thing I just told Nick with airlines. The crypto space, Bitcoin and the crypto miners all had really, really great moves, very great moves, but too much. They got overbought and they got extended. And now they're just pulling back. You can see just here, same thing, overbought, pull back, pull back. The question is, how much are they going to pull back? Like how far down and for how long? That's really, that's the thing. That's the thing. So I think that they look fine. I think that they are in uptrends. You're just going to have to manage your positions or manage your trades to figure out when these things want to go higher. Now they have earnings coming up, so that makes me, want to wait till afterward. But generally speaking, I think these things are going to go higher. It's just a question of when, and how much of a pullback are they going to have until they go higher. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get going. Oh, let's see who's from Florida. Oh, Kevin. Kevin's over on YouTube. He's the one watching. But we got another guy in the Moxie group, Joe, saying, "Hey, he's in Lakeland, Florida, too." So we got some neighbors in the area. Awesome. Anyway, guys, remember you can always find me over here at profitpilot.com or simplertrading.com/Moxie. And if you like the way the Moxie indicator looks, go pick it up for yourself. Come join us in the trading room. And let's just kind of be careful about this pullback. And we just got to ride it out. All right, guys. Thanks again. We'll see you at the next one.